Trevor Wiest here, and today I want to talk a little bit about practicing. How to practice and what to practice in the most efficient way and how long to practice. Over the years, the most efficient way I've found to practice is breaking it down into 3 sections. Technique, theory, and songs. Those 3 things. And spend maybe 15 minutes on each of them. Why I like to start out with technique, it gets your fingers warmed up. Play everything with a metronome. So I'd start out with warm-ups first and work on that for a third of the time. Then go to theory, so that covers scales. And I pick one scale, like one scale and one position a day to work on. And then once you get those down, start moving on to other things. And then songs, especially songs where you can use the stuff that you're practicing in. Because it's tough to remember stuff if you don't have a song to use it in. So that's what I did starting out. And I still use that loosely as a guide for coming up with stuff to practice. So now I always run into, I have to learn a lot of songs, and that takes time. But then I also want to keep improving and working on my own styles of music and also just learning things that I think are cool. So with my thing, what I'm working on right now, I actually have, if you look over here, I have a whiteboard that I write the stuff, my goals of practice goals and the schedule of what I'm working with. Stuff to see it, I can maybe do a PDF of it later. But I've broken it down into different styles of music that I like to play. And this formula could be used with anything. You don't necessarily have to use it just with guitar. If you play multi-instruments, it works great. Or if you like to write music or sing, you can use this as well. This is my cat, by the way. He's just do these videos and all of a sudden he just kind of jumped. Look at this. He's an adorable little kitty. Hey, right, buddy? He helps me practice too. I'm teaching him how to play guitar. He's gonna start stealing my gigs, actually. Hey, buddy, what's that? Okay, anyhow, back to practicing. What I've done, I've broken it down into different styles of music that I like to play. So I started out as a rock guitar player, got into jazz and fusion and classical guitar, fingerstyle guitar, and then everything I see on guitar I think is really cool and I wish I could do it, but you know, we have a limited amount of time and you have to kind of pick and choose sometimes on what to work on and what's realistic for you to play. And you want to do stuff that helps you build your own voice on the instrument and have your own creative style. So what I do, I've broken it down into this. I have 12 classical songs, or songs I play on a classical guitar. That doesn't necessarily have to be classical music, but solo pieces that I feel I should have down no matter where I play them. I could be stranded on an island, and if I have a classical guitar, I'll be able to play these songs. So I wrote 12 songs out, and those are the songs I practice. And how I practice those songs, if I'm going through my classical routine, I start out with a warm-up. I use a metronome. If there's anything you get out of this video, use a metronome and record yourself. Not just video, record audio of yourself, because your eyes can fool you. If you listen back to something, you'll be more critical on it. So have a setup where you can record yourself, audio recording, even if it's just on your phone. So I warm up with a classical technique warm-up, and then I work on songs. So I might pick 1 or 2 of those songs a day to work on. And I just work through them for a little bit. I'll spend maybe 45 minutes to an hour on that, and that's it. And that's my classical routine. You can do this in multiple days with other routines, or you can just pick one day to work on it. You'll see more results if you practice stuff every day, even if it's not for a long time. So that's one thing I work on. And then I have the fundamental part, a fundamental practice routine. And I start out by reading through these books. You can see my light set up here. It's going to be a little darker over here. So if you can see it, the camera should be able to switch. Where is this book? I work through the Levitt books. Here we go. This is a great book to read out of. So, Modern Method for Guitar, volumes 1, 2, and 3. It's a really great book. So I just pick like 12 pages a day, and I just read it like it's a novel. Just going through it, just reading it. I also teach lessons using that book and similar books. So it's kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I get to practice as well as teach people stuff too. So I do that. And then I work on these fretboard biology books by Joe Elliott. You can check out his stuff online. He's written some incredible books. His stuff is probably the most organized technique books or theory books that I've ever seen. Try to find some sort of scale book that you can work on that covers scale and music theory. Another one is called Tonal Harmony. That's what we worked through in college. That's just a theory book where you can work things out. There's worksheets and everything too. Anyhow, so I'll work on that for a little bit. And then I have these fun like Jamie Aebersold play-along books that I like to work through. There's one with Giant Steps where it talks about Coltrane changes. But you also want to play stuff that, you know, like that you can, not that you can't use music like that, but I feel like you need to play stuff that's familiar to people too and works for a different scenario. So a lot of times when I practice that stuff, I work on 2-5-1s or 1-6-2-5s or certain jazz things that are common in that style of music, building vocabulary and soloing over that so I can solo over changes, at least well enough to get through the gig. So I have that. And that's kind of my fundamental thing. If I go through that, it takes a while. I'll be, it's a good hour of playing, and then I've separated that from jazz standards. So like the classical, how I did with the classical solo pieces, I have about 12 jazz standards that I feel like if I was stranded on an island with an electric guitar and electricity for that guitar, but still stranded on the island, and there's a bass player and a drummer, and the bass player could swing and so could the drummer, and I had to play jazz. They only knew jazz standards, and I didn't know any. I'd at least have 12 jazz standards to be able to sit in with this band that I'd be stranded on an island with. So for survival, I have the real book, and it's falling apart like they always do, and some pages marked in for my gig. And then I picked 12 standards that I just work on and try to memorize and have it down, so they're just ingrained. So you can always learn more. You don't need to have 12. You can have hundreds of them. But at least with these 12, I got them right here. They're not going anywhere. Also chord solos. It's good to at least have a couple chord solos down. So out of these standards, I do chord solos as well. So I come up with my own arrangements of them, and I learn a couple of arrangements too that other people have done. So that way you can do a solo gig, a jazz solo gig with the standards, and it helps you write music too. You can see how to voice lead and that whole world. And if you're new to that, I would start out by learning your drop twos. It's great for arranging. Okay, so that's my jazz workout. Now we're gonna get to fingerstyle. Fingerstyle, I just pick pieces, and I do this with a thumb pick, and I got my good old long nails that I should probably file at least a little bit. They look kind of crazy, and I use this with classical guitar too, so I need to buff them up a little bit, but they're long and sharp, and hopefully they don't break. And I use olive oil. I put olive oil on my nails so it keeps them stronger. Ava Benica, former teacher, recommended that, and it works. I used to do acrylic nails. Oh, I just dropped my real book. I used to do acrylic nails, and it worked. The only problem with it is that they're super thick, and then after every 3 or 4 weeks, you gotta get them replaced. But yeah, go to the nail salon and get my manicure, and acrylic nails is great. Anyhow, so that's my fingerstyle one's a little bit easier, and I feel it's the same concept. If I was stranded on an island, the steel string guitar, and I had to play fingerstyle guitar, at least I'd have some kind of Chet Atkins style stuff to work on. What else do I have to work on? That's kind of the main stuff, and then I like playing stuff for fun. It's good to transcribe stuff. It's good to learn solos, but sometimes it's better to learn like little clips of solos. Like if there's a lick you really like, learn the lick, but really pay attention to the chord that it's over and what chord tones are in the lick, so you can apply it in your own way. The other thing I feel is really good, learn stuff, but also write your own stuff. Write your own music is good to do. Get in a band where you can do that, or write your own solo things or whatever is meaningful to you, but also write your own licks, and that really helps you memorize it. So once you get the concept, I think it's best to look when you're transcribing things. Look at the concept. Try to get the concept down. See what they're thinking, and then recreate it with your own voice and your own spin on it. And I think that's what separates guitarists, and that's how you get your sound, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be technique driven. If you're not a shredder, you don't need to blaze notes. There's always someone faster, so play something musical. You don't need to shred. But if that's your thing, go for it. That's fun to do too. Another fundamental thing we should talk about as guitar players, since it's an uncomfortable topic, but sight reading. Being able to read music culturally is not a guitar thing. Piano players read music. Horn players read music. Violin players, most of them read music. Everybody seems to read music very well except for guitar players. So the best way I've felt for reading music is the Levitt books, or those Hal Leonard method books, starting from the very beginning, playing everything with a metronome. Hey, look at this guy. And working slowly with it, and just the tricky thing about a guitar, there's so many ways of playing the same note on the guitar, but starting out in your open positions and then just going up the neck and working through the books, because the books will explain it. That's one side of it, navigating through it, and then also reading rhythms. Reading rhythms, the best thing to do if you have somebody who can kind of help you, mentor you with it, take lessons from people so you can hear how it sounds. There's books on it too, but even just clapping rhythms out helps a lot. Writing music notation software like Finale Notepad or Guitar Pro, where you can write rhythms. If you want to know what it sounds like, you can write it out. So that gets back to transcribing. Transcribing is when you listen to something, you write it out, and you learn how to play it. That helps too, because if you hear a solo in your head, and you can hear it great, and you learn how to play it, but then you actually have to write it out on paper, you see how the rhythms work together. So that's a big thing that helps too. Okay, hopefully this was insightful, and you got something out of the video. Feel free to comment below on any ideas, any feedback, which you guys are practicing. I'd love to know what everyone's working on. But anyhow, that's kind of the stuff that I'm working with. My cat says bye too, right? I'll see you guys later.